I'm not going to go down that path. That's not where I'm going with this. But I want you to see that this is a judgment. These are the first of 3 sets of judgments in the book of Revelation. So now we have to step back a bit, and get a perspective. Chapters 4 and 5 is the worship of heaven. Worship in heaven of salvation. Both Old Testament and New Testament. Okay? Chapter 5 opens the seals. And what is unleashed after that? We're going to get 7 seals. The 7th seal will open 7 trumpets. The 7th trumpet will open 7 bowls. And these are all judgments. The 7 seals are chapters 6 and 7. The 7 trumpets are chapters 8 through really 15, because there's some interludes in there. The 7 bowls are going to be chapter 16 of Revelation, which will then lead us into chapters 17 and 18, which is the whore of Babylon. That leads us to 19, which is the marriage supper of the Lamb, the consummation of the vision. Chapters 20, which is the millennial rule, and chapters 21 and 22, which is the New Jerusalem, the new heavens, and the new earth. So this section from here to here is filled with these judgments. They're all judgments. Now the question is, where does this come from? Where is this coming from? Why is it judgment? I thought Jesus was love and mercy. And the answer is he is. But he's also just. And I want to give you, if you notice on your outline, it says a preamble to understanding the 3-fold judgments in the book of Revelation. You have to understand this 3-fold judgment idea. Where does it come from? Why these dramatic judgments, and what do they signify? We have to go back to, guess where? Old Testament. This time we're going to the book of Leviticus. We're going to start with Leviticus 26. And I'll argue, read the entire chapter. Leviticus 26. Leviticus 26, which is page 93 in my Bible. Leviticus is the 3rd book in the front of the Bible. You have to be in the front. Go Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus. Okay? Page 93 if you have my Bible. Now, remember, the book of Leviticus are God's pages and pages and pages and pages and pages of what to do, what to eat, how to dress, how to celebrate all of the festivals, everything. Okay? Chapter 26. You shall make for yourselves no idols, erect no graven images or pillar, and you shall not set up a figure stone in your land to bow down to them. I am the Lord your God. What does that sound like? The 10 Commandments. Well, didn't he already say that in the first commandment?
Yep.
Why is he repeating himself?
Because they did
Reminder.
Because they're stubborn and pig-headed. They need to hear it more than once.
They never kept it up.
They never kept it. So I'll give it to you in Exodus 20. I'm going to tell you here. I'm going to tell you in Deuteronomy. Stop making idols. How hard is that? Very hard. It's a good thing we don't do that kind of foolishness today, right? All kinds of idols. Idols to self, power, money. We live in a country that is saturated and worships this stuff all the time. The golden calf is alive and well and being worshipped daily on any number of Netflix shows, commercials, you name it, billboards. You see it all over. What do they worship? Power, money, sex. Those are all things typified in the golden calf. It's gold. It's young. It's a calf. It's not a full bull. It's virile sexuality. And it's power. It's a bull. It's not a goat or a lamb. Power. Power, wealth, virility, sexuality. All of that is just worship left and right. Don't mistake yourself for anything. We worship the golden calf big time in our country. And don't get sucked into it. We are surrounded by idolatry. Now, verse 2. You shall keep my Sabbaths and reverence my sanctuary. I am the Lord. What does that sound like?
Number 3.
Sounds like Ten Commandment number 3, right? You think there's a point to why God's repeating himself? Because maybe it's sink it into our thick heads. Maybe. Here's the kicker, verse 3. If you walk in my statutes and observe my commandments and do them, then I will give you your rains in their seasons, and the land shall yield its increase, and the trees of the field shall yield their fruit. On you can read. What are you going to get? Blessings, 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 blessings. The land will yield its fruit. Your enemies will be put at bay. You will have peace and prosperity, and you will greatly increase. Fertility was to be given through the Lord. It was a blessing from the Lord. Fertility. You look at verse 9. I will have regard for you and make you fruitful and multiply. Well, that sounds familiar. What does that sound like? Genesis. You see how God wanted to bring back Genesis? And that was before they fell, remember? That was the first commandment God gave them. Not don't eat. First commandment was be fruitful and multiply. They didn't do that. Why? I don't know, but that's another story. On and on and on and on and on. Verse 14. But if you will not listen to me, I don't want to read any further. But it's here. We got to read it. All right. If you will not listen to me and will not do all these commandments, if you spurn my statutes, and if your soul abhors my ordinances. Did you hear that? Abhors my ordinances. So that you will not do my commandments, but break my covenant. You see, it's all about this marriage agreement we have with God. I will do this to you. I will appoint over you sudden terror, consumption, and fever that waste the eyes and cause life to pine away. And you shall sow your seed in vain, and your enemies shall eat it. I will set my face against you, and you shall be struck down before your enemies. Those who hate you shall rule over you, and you shall flee where none shall pursue you. Did you hear that? Here's the kicker, verse 18. And if in spite of this you will not listen to me. Really? Talk about hard-headed. I mean hard-headed.
He knows. He's gone through a whole Bible.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Hard-headed. Just hard-headed. If in spite of this you will not listen to me, then I will chastise you again. What?
Sevenfold.
Again. Sevenfold.
He says this 4 times in this chapter. Leviticus 26, 18, verse 21, 24, and finally in 28. A 4-fold warning of 7 times I will multiply these chastisements, these plagues. Now, is this the only place that God did something like this? No. More homework. Deuteronomy, chapters 27 through 28. We don't have time to read through all of it, but if you want to look briefly, Deuteronomy 27 and 28. Here's a very interesting, if you will, spin on this. God gave these laws in Leviticus while they were wandering in the wilderness. Once again, in Deuteronomy, this happened just before Moses passes away. Chapter 27, verse 1. This is page 149 if you have my Bible. Now Moses and the elders of Israel commanded the people, saying, keep all the commandments which I command you this day. And on the day you pass over the Jordan into the land which the Lord your God gives you, you shall set up large stones and plaster them with plaster, and you shall write on them all the words of this law. When you pass over to enter the land that the Lord your God gives you, a land flowing with milk and honey, as the Lord, the God of your fathers, has promised you, and when you have passed over the Jordan, you shall set up these stones which I command you this day on Mount Ebal. And you shall plaster them with plaster, and you shall build an altar. Verse 6. You shall build an altar to the Lord your God of stone. Keep going. Verse 8. You shall write upon the stones all the words of this law very plainly. Verse 11. And Moses charged the people the same day, saying, when you have passed over the Jordan, you shall stand upon Mount Gerizim to bless the people. Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, Joseph, and Benjamin. Now look at verse 13. Are you ready? These shall stand upon Mount Ebal for the curse. Half of the tribes of Israel are to stand on one mountain, the other tribe to bless the people, the others to curse them. And those who curse them are Reuben, Gad, Asher, Zebulun, Dan, and Naphtali. And the Levites shall declare to all men of Israel with a loud voice, cursed, 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 cursed. All these are curses. Chapter 28 are the blessings for obedience and the warnings against disobedience. So I'm going to leave that for you to see. It's a repetition. But what I wanted you to see out of Deuteronomy that you don't see in Leviticus is that when they entered into the promised land, there were 2 mountains. Remember, every covenant was made on a
Mountain.
The first mountain was Eden. Second one, Ararat. Third one, Moriah. The fourth one, Sinai. Fifth one, Zion. The sixth one, Calvary. Every single covenant was made on a mountain. So when they entered the promised land, those on Mount Gerizim had the blessings. And there were 6 tribes that stood here for the blessings. And they're listed there. Over here on Mount Ebal were the curses. And there were 6 tribes here. And the people passed through them while they were told to recite these blessings and curses. What does that mean? You remember this with Abraham?
Walking through the burnt offerings.
The offerings. Remember when God told Abraham to take these animals, split them in half, and separate them?
Yeah.
And then he walked through them as a pot of smoke and a torch of fire. Smoke and fire, remember that?
Mm-hmm.
That was to signify what? That just like what happened to these animals, may that happen to me if I break the covenant. When the people pass through these 2 mountains establishing the covenant, they're saying, may the curses fall on us if we break the covenant. So, what is the purpose of these 7 seals, 7 trumpets, 7 bowls? It's a threefold covenantal cursing for those who don't follow the law, those who don't keep the new covenant. They're far more dramatic and far more revealing